Good morning and welcome all of you to this first day of the Lean Six Sigma Black Belt certification organized by EduHub Institute. I welcome all of you. I welcome Sachin, good morning, Inzi, good morning, and also Terry, good morning to all of you. As I'm aware that you people have already done your green belt, Inzi and Sachin, you have already done your green belt with me, and at the same time, Dariel, as I understand, you have done green belt separately from the e-learning. Okay, so good. So you people are quite aware of the Six Sigma methodologies and all, and today we have assembled to uh, do a complete journey together on the Lean Six Sigma Black Belt certification. Okay, so let us start. While understanding the concept of Lean Six Sigma Black Belt, or rather understanding the concept of a Six Sigma methodology, there are three terminologies you can say are most important for any Six Sigma initiative to start. They are customer. So identification of the customer is absolutely essential in case of a Six Sigma initiative to identify who is my customer. From the Six Sigma standpoint, these customers are always of two kinds. One is an external customer who are external to our organization, that is our end customers, and another is an internal customer who are internal to our organization. Internal to our organization, your CEO of the organization, your CFO, your leadership team, your senior management, your middle management, your employees, all could be your internal customer. So identification of the customer is of prime importance when you start doing S6 initiative. The second terminology, which is very important for us to understand, is after understanding what is customer, next thing to understand is what quality as per customer. Quality should always be defined as per customer because finally we are trying to serve our customer. Okay. In any Six Sigma initiative, we do for the customer, not for ourselves. So quality from the customer standpoint is very important. When we talk about quality, in simple terms, we can say by quality, it means anything which is fit to use. In normal term, we can say fit to use. So anything that is fit to use by the customer is a quality item, whether it is a product or whether it is a service. Now, when I talk about quality, if I try to elaborate on the concept of quality a bit more, it can be defined as quality means any specification or criteria that meets or exceeds the customer's expectations. Anything that meets or exceeds the customer's expectation is a quality item, whether it is a product or a service. So in this case, when I talk about ideally a manufacturing organization, we can say we deal with products. In case of a service industry, we can say that we deal with services. The third terminology, which is of very important, is the defect. Defect as per customer. So the first thing, as you can understand, who is my customer, what is quality as per customer, and what is defect as per customer. Defect. Defect is anything or everything that does not meet the customer's expectations. That is, they are just the opposite of quality. If a customer says that you are sending me products with less than equal to 70% quality, that means you are sending him with greater than equal to 30% defects to make it total 100%. So that is how a defect has to be identified. Whenever the defects are more, that ideally leads to our work towards a Six Sigma methodology, which we will discuss gradually. When I talk about quality, for each customer, quality means something else. If there are 5 customers, like for Inji, there are 5 customers, for Gabriel, Teriel, there are 5 customers, and also for Sachin, there are different customers. It is not necessary that each one, Teriel, Inji, and Sachin, and their customers all will have the same expectation. One customer might say, for me, conformance to specification is of high importance. Another customer might say, conformance to specification is okay, but also my products should be 100% quality. Another customer might say that yes, conformance to specs is fine. Even I can allow 1 or 2% defects, but for me, schedule variance is the most important thing. That is, no schedule variations. So for each customer, you have to attain as per their expectations. So for each quality perspective, the customer's quality perspective will differ. That is what is called quality. So quality differs from different. When I talk about quality, as I said, for some customers, 0 defect is the priority. For some, producing within budget is a quality factor. Some opt out for deliveries on schedule. Some will say conformance to specification is my priority. So each customer has their own priorities to define as a quality item. Different clients, as I have said, different customers have different priorities and perceptions about quality. Each one has a different perspective and different priorities about quality. When I talk about quality, there are ideally 2 forms of quality. One is the product quality, another is the process quality. What is product quality? Product quality, safe to assume it is about the quality of the product or the service or the output that we are delivering to the customer. And Six Sigma as an initiative concentrates on the quality of the process. If Inji has one customer who has already complained of defects and now you want to improve the quality of the product, how can Inji improve the quality of the product if she does not improve the quality of the process that is creating that product? So in Six Sigma initiative, improvement towards the quality of the process is the focus area. So in Six Sigma initiative, our concentration always will be on the quality of the process. If the quality of the process is substantially improved and properly done, definitely the quality of the products or the quality of the output will definitely improve. We have already discussed this. Every customer has their different quality perspective. Now, after we have understood about customer, quality, and also defect, the next thing comes up. I talked about that Six Sigma as an initiative is talking about improvement to the process. Improvement to the process. So the next question will automatically come. What's the process? I'm sure Ariel, Inji, and Sachin, all of you are very much aware in your respective organization. What exactly is a process? A process is a sequence of activities, a sequence of steps performed to attain something. To attain something, what are the gradual or all the steps that we take? That is the process. And in any process, in any organization, whatever be your domain, I know all 3 of you are from different domains, but every organization has a process. And whenever any organization has a process, there are 3 components in a process. Number 1, it's a written down procedure. It's a written down procedure that is the first thing that we should understand in a process. That is, a process is properly laid down as a work instruction or as a procedural document. Then we apply some tools and techniques in addition to the procedure for the process to function better or to improve the process. And who works on the procedure and who works on the tools and techniques? It is the people of the organization. So collectively, laying down a procedure, ideally a written procedure, usage of tools and techniques as appropriate for the procedure, and people or the employees of the organization who are instrumental in working towards this as a total process. That is what the total process is all about, which has three components: procedure, tools, and people. And this goes also in a vicious cycle. Always these are the three components which work with each other, so that we understand that everything is going on proper in a particular process. When I talk about process management, Sir Edward Deming, one of our quality guru, had devised a cycle which is called PDCA cycle, which I think all of you should be aware of this. PDCA, plan, do, check, act. That is, whenever you start any process, first to plan it out properly. Because Six Sigma initiative deals with big amount of process. Six Sigma initiative deals with big amount of process or a detailed amount of process. So first try to plan out what process that you are going to undertake. Then work on the plan. That is, you act, you do whatever you have planned. And after you have done working on the plan, is whatever I have planned and whatever I have done, are these correct? Are these okay? Are these properly in line on what I am planning and what I have actually done? Check it. If any changes need to be done, act upon it. And again, go for review of the plan, whether now the plan, do, check, act, PDCA is going on properly in the organization. Because if we don't start with a plan and finish with an act, and that too in a vicious cycle, most of your activities in a Six Sigma initiative will not ideally go. When I talk about quality assurance, what is a quality assurance? Quality assurance or assurance of quality in the process, it emphasizes on all the activities and all the people involved in producing the entity. Over here, entity means the final output of the product or service. See the last sentence of the footnote. Quality is not an add-on. It has to be built in within the process of the organization. You cannot say quality initiative is a separate process. No, quality has to be built in. Whatever process you do, quality is always a part of it. Process quality is always part of it. So if you have the quality as a regular practice in your organization, it leads to a better quality item, better quality product, better quality service, which is coming up. So quality is not an add-on. It's not something that is addition to the process. It has to be built in within the process, and quality is everyone's responsibility. When I talk about full quality, we discussed about product quality, we talk about process quality, we talk about service quality also, right? And also we talk about value addition. We are going to discuss later on. And personal interaction for improvement of any quality whatsoever. All these collectively talk about something which is called a customized quality. That is what is called a customized quality for any organization perspective. Now, when I talk about quality management principles, there are ideally 8 quality management principles. First one, It should be always customer focused. There should be always involvement of people within the organization towards the process, and win-win relation or good working relationship with suppliers. A systematic and a structured approach to management. Here, I will ask you to write down one particular note. Please write down. Six Sigma is a well-planned, well-documented, systematic and structured way of doing a process. Six Sigma, I repeat, is a well-planned, well-documented, systematic and structured way of doing a processing. This is what we call a systematic and structured way of doing. That is exactly is coming out in step number 4. It's a systematic approach to management. Process approach, of course, we are dealing with process quality, so process approach. Leadership, proper leadership is essential to ensure that the process are followed properly in our organization. It's a continual improvement. What do I mean by this? This is very important from the Six Sigma perspective. Continual improvement. Continual improvement means we do an improvement, we make an improvement, and we sustain that improvement. That is the most important thing in a Six Sigma. Doing the improvement and again deteriorating in the next month, that is not an improvement. That is not considered as an improvement. Improvement is considered when you do a process improvement and you sustain that. And you sustain that. That means you make the improvement permanent. That is what is called a continually. That is more important. And a factual approach to decision making. If I ask Daryl, how is your organization doing? He will say, sir, my organization is doing fantastic. How does he know? He definitely has the revenue figures in the back of his mind. The other data related to revenue, profit, and all these things. Based on that only, he is telling me that his organization is doing perfect. Organization is doing perfect. So that is what is called a factual approach to decision making. Whatever you do, that should be backed by proper data and proper facts. Proper data and proper facts. So that is the factual approach. Out of these 5, all are very important quality management principles, but especially you can note it down. Customer focus, point number 1. Point number 5, process approach. Point number 7, continual improvement. Point number 8, factual approach to decision making. These 4 are very important from the Six Sigma standpoint. Very, very important, which we are going to discuss in detail with all of you. Okay. I strongly believe in this is one of my favorite slides, and I strongly believe process and quality are part of everyday life. It's nothing but common sense. Process and quality are part of everyday life, and it is nothing. Of course, common sense is becoming very uncommon nowadays, but still, process and quality are part of everyday life, and it has to be built into the process. If you apply common sense in many areas, you will see that your concept of quality is well achieved. A question might come after we have understood the concept of customer, the concept of quality, the concept of effect, the concept of process. The next question comes. What after a process we are doing? What's a project? Because when somebody says, if Inji tomorrow says that I am doing a Six Sigma process, I am working on a Six Sigma methodology, that means ideally that she is working on a Six Sigma project. She is working on a Six Sigma project. So what exactly is a project? We can define a project like it's a temporary endeavor to achieve something. It's a temporary endeavor to achieve something. Similarly, in a Six Sigma initiative, it's a temporary endeavor for few months or few period of time that we execute a Six Sigma project to achieve something, achieve a process improvement so that ultimately the product and services becomes good. Now, a question is there, when or why a project can fail? Lack of proper estimation, which is a very common factor I've seen in general in IT organization. The estimation is done very poor. Not understanding the customer's requirement properly. Not understanding customers' requirement properly. That is another reason of a project getting failed. Lack of proper planning, project planning and monitoring. Lack of available resource. Non-availability of not availability of adequate resources, not able to manage client expectations, not able to understand what exactly the customer is asking, lack of process and standards. Due to lack of process and standards, your projects can fail. Configuration management, which I'm going to talk about a bit later, not now, because otherwise configuration management is towards the baselining or the versioning of a documentation, which I will take up while we discuss the improve phase, because this is a Six Sigma session where we ideally not really want to discuss configuration management. Reviews and testing, inadequate or no reviews and testing. That means there are a lack of reviews and testing in a manufacturing organization, lack of quality control and quality checks, because of which there is a problem in the process. That is why a project is failing. And also staff attrition. Staff attrition is a very common method of saying that staff attrition is one of the way of saying that staff attrition contributes for a project to fail. When I talk about Six Sigma as an initiative, we have discussed to an extent, but still, it's a customer focused attitude. Here, we view quality externally from the customer's perspective and measure the same as the customer does. That is, on behalf of the customer, we have to manage. So quality, as I said earlier, will always have to be managed from the customer's perspective. A Six Sigma initiative is always a customer focused initiative. All the decisions are data driven, not on gut feel that I have discussed. It's a method to achieve defect level of 3.4 per million opportunity. Hold on this point. I will discuss this point when we are in the measure or when we proceed. So I'm keeping this particular bullet point in the parking lot as of now. Six Sigma is also a method to achieve breakthrough improvements in process. It's a standard or a philosophy or a culture which mandates operational excellence, and it uses a set of tools and techniques designed to reduce variation in the process and also operations, that is day-to-day operation of an organization. What are the key goals of Six Sigma? The key goals of Six Sigma are, as stated, we have to understand the mindset of the Six Sigma as applicable to your organization. The applicability of Six Sigma in Dariel's organization, in Inzi's organization, and in Sachin's organization ideally might not be the same. So we have to understand that mindset from our organization perspective and then use it. Understand the concepts and the philosophy of Six Sigma. Yes. Understand the basics. Actually, there is nothing called basics of Six Sigma. It is the concept. I will prefer to call it a concept. Understand the concepts and the methodologies of Six Sigma. How to handle a Six Sigma project. Sustain the improvement for times to come that we have already discussed, that we have to sustain that improvement so that it becomes a continual improvement. And how a continual improvement is possible, that by continual monitoring, That is how it is possible. The last point talks about savings to the organization. What is savings to the organization? In order to explain this, I will use my whiteboard for it. To an extent, I will use my whiteboard to explain this. Please write it down for me, or rather with me. Benefits of Six Sigma for an organization. Benefits of Six Sigma that you pass on to an organization by working on a Six Sigma initiative. Number one, improved process. You improve a process, and after your improvement is done, you pass on the improved process to your organization. You pass on your improved process to your organization, right? So that is how a process is improved, and after improvement, that improved process you pass on to your organization. At the same time, we hand over some financial savings to the organization by doing a Six Sigma project. I will give you an example. Suppose Angie is working on some particular product, and she is sending the products to her customer. Okay. Now, the customer suddenly one day called up Angie and said, that madam, I'm not very happy with your product quality. Your product quality on an average are coming less than equal to 70% quality, which is make me really sick. I'm not happy with this. That means what? It is having 30% or more defects in the products. Definitely none of the customers should accept. So could you please work on this and improve and send me a better quality? Obvious expectation. So definitely now, when there are defects being flown into the customer, what they will do, all the defect, they will send you back. The please rectify this, please repair this, rework on this, make all these things corrected properly, and then send me back again the corrected versions. So whenever there are defects, you are spending too much time on rework, rectification, and all those areas. So if now Angie, and say on an average, if people are spending, Angie is spending around 1,000 hours of efforts per annum in all the rework, rectification, all those activities. Now, she has now doing, she is doing a Six Sigma initiative. Now she is doing a Six Sigma initiative. When she is doing a Six Sigma initiative, it is always worthwhile that after a Six Sigma initiative is done, the process has been improved and the customer definitely have given you an expectation that I want 100% quality. Fine. So Inji has improved the process to such an extent that her process or quality of the process is now 100%. That means there are zero defects. So with zero defects, that 1,000 hours of rework or rectification efforts Inji has set. Now, when Inji has set these 1,000 hours of efforts, if she multiplies that total 1,000 hours of efforts with the rate card per hour of the employees who worked on the rectification or rework, she will get a financial value. So automatically that financial value, when she's producing 100% quality items, that is with no defects, she is passing on to the organization. That's financial savings. That is the financial saving that she is passing on. So whenever we do a Six Sigma initiative for an organization or a Six Sigma project for an organization, I pass on an improved process, or I also pass on a financial savings to the organization. Okay. Now I am back to my material. Now, when I talk about Six Sigma benefits, It is for improvement of a customer satisfaction, because the boundary of a Six Sigma initiative goes like this. It starts off with a Six Sigma, with a customer dissatisfaction, and ends with the customer getting satisfied. It starts with the customer dissatisfaction and ends with a customer satisfaction. So improved customer satisfaction is one of the benefits that we acquire by doing a Six Sigma initiative. It also reduces cycle time, turnaround time, reduces cost of poor quality. Cost of poor quality we will discuss. It also leads to some effective process management for continuous improvement. It reduces defects or non-compliance in the process. And the last point is very important. Six Sigma, to do a Six Sigma project, the immediate solution to the problem is not known. If I come to Sachin's organization, and if Sachin tells me, sir, there is a big problem in our process, we are going to improve, and I also know what is the solution, I will simply tell him, just do it. If you already know the solution, you could probably do the improvement in 5 days or 5 hours or 15 hours or 15 days. Six Sigma does not allow you to do so fast because it's a big improvement, a high level improvement that you are doing in the process. So ideally, a Six Sigma initiative applies when there is a problem in the process and the immediate solution is not really known. In those cases, you will really apply a Six Sigma initiative because you have to understand, you have to find out, you have to analyze and find out what could be a good solution, how to go for the solution, and then only I will go for the solution. So whenever there is a problem where the solution is not known or the solution is not apparent, these are basically the Six Sigma opportunities. When I talk about Six Sigma trainings, there are some kind of trainings that we are going to discuss. Number one, in many organizations I have seen, there are yellow belt trainings or awareness trainings. Yellow belt training or awareness. Yellow belt trainings, you basically become aware of the Six Sigma as a concept, Six Sigma as in my culture, Six Sigma as a philosophy. Also, you understand many terms and terminologies of Six Sigma, not necessarily you know how to apply and use each one of them. You become aware of the concept, okay? A green belt Six Sigma training or a Six Sigma green belt training, I would say, is the first training of its kind where you start learning Six Sigma to a greater extent, okay, to quite a good extent, where you will learn about the terms and terminologies of Six Sigma, the inherent values of Six Sigma, the benefits, the methodologies of Six Sigma, and at the same time, you will be using quite a few statistical tools and techniques, hands-on, few quality tools and techniques, and very few management tools and techniques, along with some instruments and other necessary things. Generally, the duration of a yellow belt training can be for a day or for 2 days, maybe for 2 hours only. A green belt training duration varies from organization to organization. So, like in EduHub, we have a specific duration for green belt training. Likewise, for other organizations also, we have specific duration. Accordingly, we plan our training contents and training. Overall, the contents and the discussion points on any green belt or Six Sigma across different organizations remains more or less the same, I will say. There is no major difference. So the average completion period is whenever you do a green belt training, after your green belt training is done, whatever be the duration, after that you are supposed to sit for an exam to clear your green belt certification exam. and eventually you get your certification. After that, you can do your green belt project, which I'm going to discuss later in the day, which ideally takes 2 to 4 months to complete. Ideally, a green belt project takes 2 to 4 months to complete. When I talk about black belt training, a black belt training obviously is a more detailed training, because the duration of a black belt training in all organizations, though varies from organization to organization, but the duration are much more than the green belt projects, green belt training, because we learn many more things. The overall concept of Six Sigma remains the same, whether it is a green belt or a black belt session. But in a black belt session, we learn more conceptual part of Six Sigma. We learn more statistical tools and techniques, more advanced statistical tools and techniques, more quality tools and techniques, and much more and more emphasis is given on the management tools and techniques, how to take decisions on various levels. These are the things we generally learn in a black belt training. And similarly, like a green belt training, after the black belt training is done, you go for your test, get your certification, and eventually you can go for a black belt project, which ideally takes 4 to 6 months to complete. So these are the usual green belt, black belt, and yellow belt, rather yellow belt, green belt, and black belt trainings that we do in as part of Six Sigma initiative. Talking about Six Sigma as an evolution, Six Sigma as an initiative started off in manufacturing organization around the year 1960-61 in Toyota Production System, TPS. In TPS, Toyota Production System, they started off with an initiative around the year 1960-61, which was called Just-in-Time Management. But the modern Six Sigma gained much momentum in US around the year 1985-86, when Motorola started off Six Sigma to a greater extent. I was very fortunate that when I joined in GE, I used to work as a consultant for some project in Motorola also. I worked on a few projects with Motorola. So in GE, 1995, they started off with Mr. Jack Welch, and I was very fortunate to meet this gentleman in GE when I joined them in 1998 in US. So that time, I started learning of Six Sigma, and I have seen in GE how Six Sigma as an initiative has been used in and out in the organization for any process improvement. See this expression, y is equal to f within bracket x. There are many things written down the line. Don't read all this. No need. I will tell you what to read and when to read and what to read when the actual time comes. Don't have to read all this now. Any equation that we use in Six Sigma are ideally called expressions. They are called expressions. Okay. Y is equal to f within bracket x. Please write it down. Y is the output, f is the process or function, and x is the input or inputs. Y as the output, f as the process or function, and x is the input or inputs. What does it actually mean? Doesn't it mean the same thing which we know? We take inputs, put it under process, we get output. That is the normal work process. But why is coming first? In a Six Sigma initiative, please write it down. In a Six Sigma initiative, our concentration is always to produce better quality product and better quality services. That is our concentration. We are improving the product and the service, right? But our focus is always on improving the process that is creating the output. Our focus is on the process quality improvement, but our concentration So when I say that, if you say that I want to have this, that y, that is the output, is equal to f into within bracket x. That means x, I put inputs under process and we get y. That is, our concentration is always on the output. Our concentration is always on the better quality output. And our focus is always on the f or the process. Okay. So that is why this expression y is equal to f into x. But as we move ahead in different areas of Six Sigma, we will see how this magnitude of this expression y is equal to f in within bracket x changes in due course. We will discuss about this afterwards. We have already discussed this, that customers are ideally of two kinds, where it is written over here that primary customers, ideally top management, etc. But top management are actually part of internal customers. Okay. So I would always try to say that there are two kinds of customers: internal customers and external customers. Internal customers and external customers. Okay. Now, what we will do, we will go for a break of 15 minutes now. We will go for a break of 15 minutes and resume exactly after 15 minutes and continue with our further discussion. Welcome back after the break. Before going into the break, we had a little discussion on the few areas related to Six Sigma. Number one, who is a customer? What is quality as per customer? And what is defect as per customer? After understanding these three main terminologies, which I personally say these are the pillars of a Six Sigma initiative, we started our understanding of what exactly is the concept of quality. After understanding what exactly is the concept of quality, then we started understanding what is a process, because Six Sigma as an initiative talks about process improvement, right? So after understanding process, we also started understanding what exactly is a project. Because as I said, when we talk about Six Sigma as an initiative, Six Sigma as a culture, Six Sigma as a methodology, we talk about Sigma as a project. We do Sigma as a project. So we understood the concept of a project, what exactly is a project accordingly. And then we started discussion on what exactly is the Six Sigma initiative all about? Six Sigma initiative all about. When we have all these discussions going on, then we also understood the evolution of Six Sigma, and now we will go to some other areas of Six Sigma. Before I go to any other areas of Six Sigma, any doubts or questions from any one of you, Dariel, Inji, and Sachi, any doubts or questions from whatever we have discussed? No? Okay. If you don't have any doubts or questions, you can keep mum. You don't have to say anything. I will assume safe to believe that there are no doubts or questions from your side. Thank you. So we will continue, but as I said, whenever you have any doubts or questions, you can safely ask. Okay. Now, as if you remember, in the first part of our session, we discussed about few things. That is, any Six Sigma initiatives ideally starts off with a customer dissatisfaction and ends with a customer satisfaction and finishes off successfully with a customer satisfaction. That is the total boundary of the Six Sigma methodology. So in order to explain this, as I said, a Six Sigma initiative starts off from a customer's dissatisfaction, and this dissatisfaction in Six Sigma term is called VOC, or voice of the customer. Whenever we have a voice of the customer where the customer is expressing some dissatisfaction, because of which some process improvement becomes essential for us, that is how a Six Sigma initiative gets triggered, provided the solution is not apparent and the solution is not known. So whenever we work on this, there are many ways we can collect the dissatisfaction or the VOC from the customer. One is one-to-one interview or one-to-one discussion with the customer. One-to-one interview or one-to-one discussion with the customer. Next is customer satisfaction survey. Customer satisfaction survey. Whenever we have customer satisfaction survey, suppose in any organization which I have seen in various other organizations, that is various organizations in many sectors like IT or manufacturing organizations also, that we have prepared some parameters, whatever number of parameters, and then these parameters we share with the customers that, boss, these are the work that we do. Could you please rate us ideally in a range of 1 to 10 how we are performing on these parameters? And we always expect that our rating should always be 8, 9, and 10 on the higher side. That is very good, excellent, superlative, something like this. But if there is one customer or any customer who is not happy the way you are doing, on any particular parameter, they will mark you a bit low. They will mark you a bit low. Automatically, he will give a comment over there. Why I have marked you low on this? That area could lead to a probable Six Sigma initiative. That is how we plan for initiation of the Six Sigma initiative. Focus groups. In banking organizations, you see there are relationship managers who deal with some savvy customers to find out, sir, how do you feel about our that service, this service, our banking service, our opening of an account? How do you feel? If there is a negative feedback, or if there is a comment on anything which does not have a very good positive vibe, automatically it could lead to a process improvement, which can ideally be done in a Six Sigma way. Observing the customer. Observing the customer is not a good way of doing things. Okay. And customer complaint. Customer complaint is the final thing. Customer escalation, customer complaint is the final thing that you are going to have. If a customer complaint is the final thing which we should always have, and accordingly, we will do this. Customer complaint will lead to a process improvement, and accordingly, we will work on this. So I will say these are different ways of collecting the voice of the customer or the dissatisfaction of the customer. And accordingly, we can plan out how to start a process improvement or a Six Sigma initiative in this. Okay. Over here, I would like to add something in my why do. And I will request you people to kindly write it down. Let me first write it down and then I will explain. First is voice of the customer, or VOC, which is the dissatisfaction of the customer. That is the dissatisfaction of the customer, right? Now, another few terms which I want to define. First, write it down, then I will explain. Critical to quality, which is basically the target given by the customer, and given by customer or agreed upon by the customer. And number 3 is upper and lower specification limits, which are called USL and LSL. Also write this down. From the VOC, we derive the CTQ, and from the CTQ, we derive the upper and the lower specification limits. Now, whenever you are talking with a customer and the customer says, I am very displeased, or I am not at all happy or dissatisfied with the quality of the products or service that you are sending, which is having greater than equal to 30% defects in most of the time, which is making me very unhappy. So automatically your question will be there, sir, in order to make you happy, what can I do? So the customer will say, okay, you give me 100% quality with 0 defects, I'll be happy. So you have to improve your process to such an extent that your quality of the product should be 100%. That is what is called the CTQ, or the critical to quality, which is a target given by the customer or agreed upon by the customer. Sometimes the customer can even ask you, okay, how much you can give me? You say, sir, I give you 95% quality. He might agree, he might not agree. So sometimes it is on the agreement with the customer. Okay. Critical to quality, target given by the customer or agreed upon by the customer. Now, from the critical to quality, if as I say, that the critical to quality is now that the customer wants, that defect should be less than equal to 5%. That is what the customer is asking. Okay, so that is what you have to finally attain while improving the process. Now, as I say, from the VOC, we derive the CTQ, which I think you have understood. And from the CTQ, we derive the USL and the LSL. Now, after you are done with your CTQ identification, your initial interaction with the customer can stop over there. Your initial interaction with the customer can stop over there. Okay. When I say that the CTQ is less than equal to 5% defects, that's what the customer is asking for. Your upper specification limit is 5% and your lower specification limit is 0%. What do I mean by less than equal to 5%? 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, 0. This is how. So your upper specification limit is 5% and lower specification limit is 0%. We have to understand that after we derive our USL and LSL from the CTQ, this becomes our ultimate target that we have to achieve in case of a Six Sigma initiative. So from the VOC, we derive the CTQ. From the CTQ, we derive the upper and the lower specification limits. Please write it down. Now I will go back to my material. We have understood what is the voice of the customer. And as you see, there is a box called target, which is nothing but the CTQ. And from the CTQ, we derive the specification limits. We derive the specification limits. So from the VOC, we derive the CTQ. And from the CTQ, we derive the specification limits. And after the upper and the lower specification limits, which are defined and identified from the CTQ, those becomes your ultimate target that we have to achieve in a Six Sigma initiative. So the after ascertainment of the upper and the lower specification limits, these are the ultimate target that we have to achieve in a Six Sigma initiative. Many of these initiatives like ISO, CMMI for IT organization, and Six Sigma are closely related to each other because all are part of total quality management, which are customer driven in order to satisfy the customer or to improve any of our customer, internal or external, to improve the process quality of an organization. We are trying to do this. The basics of ISO tells you whatever you do, you write, and whatever you write, you do. That means there should not be any non-conformance. And Six Sigma provides you the tools and techniques in addition to ISO or CMMI process. CMMI and ISO process, what they do, they just lay down a process, not just is not the right word. They lay down a process and govern the process so that the performance can be good as per the process. Six Sigma provides you the tools and techniques based on which the process improves. When I talk about outside-in approach, what is an outside-in approach? When I talk about outside-in approach, it actually means, if you see at the top, the normal work process, we have input, we put it under production, you get an output. I have input, we put it under production, we put it under process, I get an output. This is the normal work process. You see the improvement process, which I have already discussed. It is the same that was discussed, but it is coming in a different direction. Input to process to output, where the output is coming first. Why? I told you that in a Six Sigma initiative or an improvement process, our concentration is to produce high quality product and service, good quality product and service, for which improvement to the process is always necessary. If the process is not improved, your output cannot be improved. So in the normal work process, it is input first, process next, and output last. But in an improvement process, in a work process, input first, our process next, and output last. Then improvement process, output comes first. Process, as always, in the middle, and followed by inputs coming. Who are the parties to a Six Sigma initiative? When we talk about parties to a Six Sigma initiative, ideally, When I talk about parties to a Six Sigma initiative, in any Six Sigma organization, whatever be the organization, if Six Sigma is prevalent to a greater extent in this particular organization, we have to understand that there could be black belts in an organization, there could be green belts, there could be yellow belts or team members. These are the normal people who, or the normal roles that could be prevalent or available in a normal Six Sigma organization. Not necessary. I have seen quite a few organizations where there are no black belts. So the green belts only do to whatever extent they can carry on with the Six Sigma initiative. So these are some ideal scenario. Like in GE, we used to have even master black belts. We used to have master black belts who basically used to govern the total Six Sigma initiative of the organization. We also have sponsors. Who are sponsors? Suppose it is Sachin who is working in the operations department of the organization and he wants to improve some part of the operations process. What he does? There is a departmental head of the operations department who basically owns the process. That person is the sponsor of the process. Okay, so in any organization, whenever we do a Six Sigma initiative, there should be a sponsor or a departmental head or a process owner being identified, which in Six Sigma term is called a sponsor. We have already discussed this, what ideally could be a Six Sigma opportunity. Any problem or pain area might not lead to a Six Sigma project. Sometimes I will read out few lines because these are taken from somewhere. Any problem or pain area which does not have an immediate solution would only apply for an ideal Six Sigma project. We have already discussed about this, where the solution is not apparent, or the solution we have to analyze and find out. Those are ideal opportunities of doing a Six Sigma project. Six Sigma is a methodical approach. Didn't I say Six Sigma is a well-planned, well-documented, systematic, and structured way of doing a process improvement? That is exactly what we call a methodical approach, which follows statistically and qualitatively driven way. I talked about Six Sigma is not only Six Sigma deals with statistical tools and techniques. Six Sigma deals with quality tools and techniques. And also, in a black belt especially, we learn about many management tools and techniques. Qualitatively driven way to achieve definite improvement in a process or even introduce a new process. It leads to definite savings to the organization, may it be in percentage or in financial values, ideally in financial value. It has to be constantly reviewed and retuned to sustain that improvement. If you don't review and retune and monitor and track the improvement, how can you know? How can you ensure that the improvement that has been done is well sustained? So those are absolutely necessary. When we talk about Six Sigma as an initiative, we talk about Six Sigma as a project, Six Sigma as a methodology. We have two methodologies of Six Sigma that we should know. One is a DMAIC methodology on the left, another is a DMADV methodology on the right. What is the DMAIC methodology? 85 to 90% or more of the projects in the globe, entire world, are of DMAIC types, which is the most commonly used DMAIC methodology that we use, where there is an existing process in my organization and I want to improve upon that process. That is the DMAIC methodology. As I said, 85 to 95% or 100% of the Six Sigma projects are of DMAIC type, 85 to 95% of Six Sigma projects. DMADV, the methodology DMADV or DFSS, designed for Six Sigma, as is commonly called, applies when there is no existing process in an organization. And I want to develop or design a new process. So DMAT comes into place when there is an existing process in the organization, and there is an existing process in the organization, and I want to improve an existing process. Then comes DMAIC methodology, and DMADV methodology comes when I don't go for an improvement to the process, but I want to design a new process. Then comes the DMADV. 10 to 15% of Six Sigma projects globally are of DMADV type, which is comparatively much less used or less popular. In a defined phase, in a DMAT methodology, ideally, or a DMAT methodology, there are 5 phases. Define what is the problem, measure how much is the problem, analyze why is the problem, improve how to improve the problem, and control how to control and sustain that improvement. That is what we learn in DMAT methodology. In a DMADV methodology, define, same, what is the problem, measure. There is no existing process, so ideally you should not have any data. But not having a process, what is the problem that we are facing? For not having the problem, that data could be available with us. Analyze how to introduce a new process, design what could be the new process or the new design, and verify or validate. It talks about checking the completed design and transition to customer, checking the completed design and transition to the ultimate customer. When we talk about design for Six Sigma, that is DFSS, a major aspect to design for Six Sigma is identifying an improvement to make. But if we feel that no, this satisfaction to the customer can come not by an improvement to the existing process, but by designing a new process altogether. Then comes the design for Six Sigma or a DFSS. There are 3 types of DFSS systems as we were discussing. One is the DMADV, which I have already hinted you before, which has 5 phases: define, measure, analyze, design, and verify. There are 2 others which are very not commonly used, I will say. These are not actually commonly used. Many people have seen that they are not aware of this, but still, IDOF, where I identify the problem, I go for designing a solution, I try to optimize the solution as per expectation and needs, and finally I verify whatever I wanted to design and whatever I have actually designed, is that going to work in the same way? DCCDI, which is another form where we define a problem, we identify our customer, we go for the design concept or protocols or everything, proof of concepts and others, go for the actual design, and finally we go for the implementation. There are many tools that we will be learning in due course, in course of a DMAIC or a DMADV methodology. But in our training, our concentration will be more on the DMAIC cycle only, DMAIC methodology. But as you can see, many of the tools or techniques that we use in Six Sigma can be used both in DMAIC and DMADV methodology. As you see in the DMADV, in the first part, which is marked in yellow, in the defined phase, project charter, voice of the customer, critical to quality, project charter, we are yet to learn. Voice of the customer, critical to quality, we have already learned. Measure, control phase, histogram, Pareto charts, all these things we will learn and which will be applicable in both the methodologies. QFD is one tool which we'll be discussing on our next day, day 2, which is mostly used, not very commonly, but mostly used in case of a DMADV tool. FMEA, which is the one instrument that we'll be using, like this we'll be using in DMAIC and DMAD methodology both. What are the motives behind Six Sigma implementation? If we come from the bottom, when I go in my organization to continuously improve my process and earn some savings for my organization, there I have definitely started using Six Sigma as a tool or a technique. With the use of tool and techniques, when I am continuously improving my process in the organization is improving my organization growth with an improved process. That time, Six Sigma is used as a methodology, as a strategy. It becomes a culture that time. And when my organization grows further with a very good process, that means my organization becomes a process with very good matured process. It changes the vicinity of the organization across the globe. It changes the global perspective of the organization, where every organization globally knows the organization because they are world-class organization now with a very good process. That time we are surely using Six Sigma as a philosophy, as a culture in the organization. The Six Sigma comes in different levels. Sir Edward Deming said, before going into this slide, please write it down. Six Sigma is not a fault finding exercise, it's a fact finding exercise. Six Sigma is a fact finding exercise, not necessarily a fault finding exercise. 85%, Sir Edward Deming is saying, he's one of our quality gurus. He's saying 85%, 85% of the reasons for failure to meet customers' expectations are related to deficiencies in systems and processes rather than the employee. The role of the management is to change the process rather than pushing individuals to do better. If there is a process which is not going well in Daryl's organization, if it is not going well, what is the general human tendency? We will say probably Daryl is not working properly. That's why it is not giving the right out. Have we ever thought of, no, it is not a problem with Daryl, or rather it's a problem with the process itself. As because the process is faulty, that's why Daryl is also not able to perform properly. And finally, the output is not going on well. So generally, we go for a fault finding exercise, generally. So majority of the time it has been seen, 85% means majority of the time it has been seen that most of the time it has been seen that a problem to meet customers' expectation is not necessarily due to problem in people, but problem in process. And in our Six Sigma initiative, as I always have said, in our Six Sigma initiative, our concentration is always on improvement of the process, improvement of the process. Okay. When I talk about Kano model, before explaining Kano model, I will talk about 3 stages of customer satisfaction. This model, Kano model, which is devised by one quality analyst from Japan, Narioki Kano, he said that there are 3 stages of customer satisfaction. One is must be, second is satisfier or comforter, and the third one is delighter. I will explain this Kano model with the help of an example from our day-to-day life. Suppose it is Inji who is traveling from Egypt to Dubai in a she goes to the airport. When she reaches the airport, for the airlines, she is the customer. What are her expectations as a customer? What are her must-be expectations? That I will show my board e-ticket at the counter. The counter representative will ideally give me a valid boarding pass. I am not going to stand the whole way in the flight. I will get a proper seat, and I prefer to have a window seat. I will try to get that seat. Those are Inji's bare minimum expectations, must be expectations. So she goes to the airlines, she checked in, she shows the e-ticket and asks, can I get a window seat, please? That and then send, okay, sir, let me see. Okay, madam, let me see. So The attendant gives her a boarding pass, and in the boarding pass there is a seat number given, and she said, I have given you a window seat. So now she takes the boarding pass, she clears the security checks, and then finally Angie boards the flight. When she boards the flight and she shows the boarding pass to the air hostess, the air hostess says, yes, could you please go and sit over there, ma'am? That is your seat. That seat number mentioned in the boarding pass is 5A, and Indy got a 5A seat, which is also a window seat. So she is not going standing, which was a funny example, of course. Not going standing. She's sitting in a proper seat, and that too is a window seat. So her mastery expectations are done. Now, sitting there for some time, after sitting in the seat for some time, she realized that she has a very well cushioned seat, and very good leg space she has. Doesn't it make her more satisfied and more comfortable? At this stage, all her expectations as a flyer has already been satisfied, right? She's sitting properly in a window seat, very good leg space, very well cushioned seat. What else? She has got everything. She is a satisfied customer. She was almost on the verge of closing her eyes and feeling the good things. Suddenly, she heard the air hostess calling, and she opened her eyes and saw the air hostess has come with a five-star meal to serve her. But Angie said, I haven't ordered for a meal. I don't need a meal. He says, Madam, this is complimentary for you from our side. This is something which the customer never expected. This is something which the customer never expected. That's a delightment for her. If you get something more than what you expected, is a delighter. Always remember, for a customer management, you always have to first check that you satisfy your customer. Satisfaction of the customer is whatever the customer is expecting, you should satisfy the customer first. A customer is satisfied when all his expectations are met. A customer is expecting 95% quality. You give him 95% quality. He is very happy. He is very happy. If you can give him 98%, he will be more happy. You can definitely delight the customer, which we say moving up the value chain in quality management term. In quality management term, we call it moving up the value chain. You can move up the value chain surely if you can, but before that, you have to confirm that whatever you want to do, that you are going to delight your customer. Before that, is your improvement well sustained? Whatever extra you are giving to the customer, can you sustain that? Otherwise, what will happen? You do it for 7 days and stop it. Again, your customer will be dissatisfied, right? Because if you make it regular, that becomes an expectation. So automatically, it becomes a delighter. So delighter should be given when you are very, very sure. Then only you can commit for a delightment, else not. So these are the 3 stages of customer satisfaction. Okay. Starting from the bottom, identification of customers' requirement. You start with that identification of customer requirement, then we go for project identification, then we go for, after we identify a project, then we go for identification of the data and the facts, and eventually we work on a Six Sigma project in completion. This is the hierarchy. Six Sigma is a rigorous analytical approach. This is very, very important. It's a rigorous analytical approach for problem solving. When I talk about voice of the customer, VOC, any voice of the customer should be related to your organization process or the process of your business. So that talks about VOB. VOB, and when you talk about voice of the business, Your voice of the business is circulated around voice of the process. That means the voice of the process or VOP. And who executes the process? It is the voice of the employee or the VOE. So starting from the VOC, your voice of the business, voice of the process, and voice of the employee are very, very much related to each other, because what you are doing as an improvement from the voice of the customer are related to your organization process, and your people who are related to your organization. When I talk about cost of quality, I'm not sure how many of you, Kinji, Dariel, and Sachin, how many of you have seen your process capability index or your metrics in your organization. There are KPIs, key process indicators, that we have for every organization, where key process indicators or KPIs are the performance indicators, how we are doing. One of the very common and very important parameter on KPI is cost of quality. That is the cost we incur towards quality. This cost of quality are always divided under two virtual sections: cost of good quality and cost of poor quality. Cost of good quality means the cost that we incur to maintain a good quality, the cost that we incur to maintain a good quality. So, training cost, audit cost, quality control, quality checks, reviews, testing, these are all part of cost of good quality. Why? Why we give training to people? We give training to people so that their skill metrics improves. If their skill metrics improves, they are expected to commit less mistakes. And if less mistakes are committed, less defects or no defects will ultimately go to the customer. So that is ultimately improving our quality. That is how we define training as a cost of good quality. Why we do audit process? So that problem in the process or defects in the process we can detect beforehand, before it gets grave and make mistakes, make problems, and it goes to the customer ultimately as part of the process product. Why we do quality control, quality checks, reviews and testing? Because doing quality control, quality checks and reviews and testing helps us to detect defects before it goes to the customer. So it is to an extent helping towards maintenance of good quality. So these are all cost of good. Cost of poor quality. What is cost of poor quality? Cost of poor quality, this concept is different. Cost of poor quality means you have already generated a poor quality. That means you have already sent poor quality to the customer. You have already sent poor quality to the customer. And now the customer has returned you back the items. When the customer has returned you back the items, what you do? You work towards rework, rectification, repair, correction, damage control, and then you rectify those and then send it back to the customer. So these are the cost that you are incurring as because you have generated a poor quality. So these are called cost of poor quality. Ideally, cost of poor quality should always be tried to make it zero if possible. How? If you can produce zero defect quality item, product or service, if you can produce, in that case, what happens? If you produce zero quality, zero defect items, product or service, that happens, then there are obviously no rework, no rectification, no nothing. Automatically, you are saving on that. So you can try to make it zero if possible. But cost of good quality, you cannot make it zero. You can probably try to balance or control it as per the organization requirement. Initially, your training cost, your audit cost, your reviews testing, your quality control, quality checks could be higher because that time you are just building your process. But as time passes by, when your process matures, that time you feel I can now reduce this cost to an extent because my process has now still very much matured. My product and service has definitely now improved. So that depends on how you want to balance. And so cost of poor quality should be tried to make it zero, and cost of good quality you should try to make it balance or control as per your organization requirement. Now, when I talk about green belt and black belt, I will talk about few levels of difference between a green belt and a black belt. Okay, I will summarize the concept of green belt and black belt, the difference between the two in three major areas. Number one is on the training, which I have already discussed, that in the training perspective, in a green belt training, we ideally work, that is the first stage where we learn good amount of concept and principles towards Six Sigma, where we learn good amount of statistical tools and techniques, good amount of quality tools and techniques, a few management tools and techniques also we learn, and few instruments and other techniques also we learn in a green belt. So green belt basically gives us the first option or the first training in which we can very well talk about the different aspects and learn Six Sigma to a good extent, I will say, quite a good extent. The duration of a Six Sigma green belt differs, the training that differs from organization to organization, but generally the contents and the details of the learning of all organizations are more or less the same. Okay. Now, coming to black belt training, as I have told you, just to give me a moment. In a black belt training, obviously, we learn more things, as I told you. The overall concept of Six Sigma remains the same. Whatever you have learned in green belt, the overall concept of Six Sigma does not change in a black belt. But you definitely learn some more concepts, more statistical tools and techniques, more quality and techniques, and much more on the management tools and techniques. Okay, that is how you learn. And also many other principles you learn in a black belt, which necessarily we always don't discuss in a green belt. Otherwise, what would be the difference, right? So black belt training, as we discuss more things, you equip yourself more in the training perspective. Definitely the duration of the training will be more than a green belt, whatever be the duration. Okay. Now, whenever we talk about the training, after the training, the second level of difference that I am going to discuss is towards the project that we, the projects. The projects that we do. The projects that we do. In a green belt project, what is a green belt project and what is a black belt project? That varies from organization to organization, how you define. Ideally, there is no clear demarcation, but whenever the scope of the work is smaller, the scope of the work is limited, you generally treat it as a green belt project. And similarly, when the work is more, it has a wider scope of activity. In quality management term, we call it an umbrella level activity. That means you are trying to improve a process which is related to your whole organization work, more or less. That's a big chunk of work, wider scope of work. They can still be treated as a black belt project. Like each organization can have, because I have seen this way, each organization defines their criteria in their business process management system, That is, what is a this process and what is that process? What is a green belt project and what is a black belt project? In a green belt project, as I say, the scope is limited, the scope is smaller. If Sachin wants to do a Six Sigma project,
for improving a process related to only his part of the process. Only his part of the process. So that's a very limited scope. He can still treat it as a green belt project. But if he is trying to improve a process where the process is leading to departmental process change for 4 or 5 departments as a whole, so it's a much wider scope, he can still treat it as a black belt project. But that criteria, what is a green belt project for you? What is a black belt project for you? You have to define in the business process management system or the SOP or the quality management system. You have to define it. And accordingly, we will see how and what we need to do. Okay. So these are different ways of defining the Six Sigma methodology. Number one, this is towards the project. Also, a Six Sigma project as a green belt project takes ideally 2 to 4 months to complete, and a black belt project ideally takes 4 to 6 months to complete. Obvious, because the scope is more, the scope is much detailed, the scope could be more complicated also, automatically the duration could be more. Okay. The third and the most important difference that I feel is on the role that they play in a green belt. If you are a green belt, your role in your organization is to lead and execute a green belt project till completion. That's your responsibility. But a black belt project's responsibility, he ideally has 3 roles to play. Ideally has 3 roles to play. Number one, he should complete a black belt project, execute that black belt project, and lead that black belt project till completion. Like the way a green belt person is doing a green belt project, he should also do a black belt project and lead and complete that. Number one. Number two, he should act as a mentor to other green belt projects till completion. How? Acts as a mentor. I remember when we used to work in GE, at one point of time, we used to do our own black belt projects. At the same time, parallelly, we used to mentor or handhold 3 or 4 green belt projects till completion, till the end. Guide them, if required, train some of the green belts as and when required, handhold, observe them, and help them to complete their project. So here you play as a dual role. The black belt as a project executor and leader, and also as a mentor. The third role that a black belt plays is acts as a bridge between the improvement project and the management of the organization. Sometimes for the Six Sigma project, which a green belt might not be able to take a decision, ideally being of a junior level in many cases, a black belt can take a decision on their behalf and talk to the management, because in GE we used to take that. Many times we used to take some decisions on behalf of the management, or if at all we feel no, we cannot also take a decision, we used to approach on behalf of the green belt people to take a decisions, discuss with the management, and eventually we used to take a decision. So they act as a bridge between the Six Sigma improvement project that they are doing and the management of the organization. So here, a black belt plays 3 different roles, which are much more in addition to a green belt, because when you go for a training in a black belt, you are expected to know more and advanced and more better things in Six Sigma, more things in Six Sigma. Your conception should be ideally better. So in that case, you will be in a position to guide the green belt people till completion. After understanding the difference between the green belt and the black belt, our last area of discussion for today will be, that is on the first day, our last area of discussion will be on the toll gate review. Now, what is the toll gate review? A toll gate review is a checkpoint review that we do after each phase of the Six Sigma methodology. Suppose we are doing a DMAIC methodology. After define, we should do a define toll gate process. After measure, we should do a measure toll gate process. After analyze, we should do an analyze toll gate process. After improve, we should do an improve toll gate process. And after control, we should do an control toll gate process. After each phase completion, we should do a toll gate process or a checkpoint review. At this stage, as part of the toll gate review, you as a black belt can play an important role in your organization in guiding the green belt people how to conduct a toll gate review, which ideally should be a management review, where the sponsor ideally should be there. If you have your master black belts in your organization, they could be there. You as a black belt could call this meeting on behalf of the green belt, or the green belt themselves can call the meeting, where all the people should come and they will review each and every phase. Suppose the defined phase is now done. You can prepare your own checklist. These are the work that we were supposed to do in the defined phase. Are these all done to the utmost level? Can we now move to the measure phase? Or even you can simply prepare a document with some bullet points. If this is done, this is done, this is done, this is done, 10 or 12 points which you are supposed to do in that defined phase. Are these all done? Can we now move to the measure phase? If all the answers are yes, then only you can move to the measure phase. Similarly, after measure phase, you have to do a measure toll gate, where similarly you have to do a major toll gate review or a major phase checkpoint review, where all the work that we are supposed to do in the major phase are these done. Can we now move to the analyze phase? After and in the after analyze phase is done, you have to do an analyze phase toll gate process. If all the work that we were supposed to do in the analyze phase are these done to the fullest extent, can we now move to the improve phase? Then you do the improve phase toll gate review the similar way. And finally, the control phase toll gate review, whether all the work that we have done in the control phase are properly done. Can we now successfully close the project? That is the decision. If you don't do a toll gate review, what ideally happens? Suppose you are in the analyze phase now. You have completed your define phase, you have completed your measure phase, and now you are in the analyze phase. Now we are in the analyze phase. Suppose you are working in the analyze phase and in the middle, suddenly you remember, oh God, I missed something in the define phase. I missed out something. So you have to go back and redo the define phase. That will have an impact on the measure phase. That will have an impact correspondingly on the analyze phase, again in the improve phase, and finally, for the project completion target, it will have an everlasting effect on this. So this is what we have to understand, that we should not redo certain things. So this is a checkpoint before we move to the next phase, that whatever we are doing is okay. We can safely now move to the next phase. So whenever we ideally do a toll gate review, there can be ideally three major areas, 3 points which can ideally come up. First one, everything looks good, no issues, we can safely move to the next phase. Some minor changes are required. Please do this. Ideally, do another toll gate review after that and then go to the next phase. Some major changes are required. Some major changes are required. Make the changes and set up another toll gate review for approval. So these are the general conclusions which can come ideally in a toll gate review. As I say, toll gate review, although I say this is a management kind of review, but this even in my green belt sessions, which I take very less actually, in a green belt session also, I discuss about the toll gate, because I personally say whether a green belt or a black belt, both should know the toll gate process very much in detail. And toll gate is a management review or a formal review process. It's a formal review process that all the minutes and agenda and everything, the actions coming out of it should be well recorded. And in a Six Sigma initiative, everything has to be documented. In a Six Sigma initiative, everything has to be documented. You cannot have any Six Sigma initiative done which talks about something which is not documented. You should not have this way. So everything should be documented in a Six Sigma initiative. This is how a toll gate review output has to be properly documented. Okay. So this is the toll gate or the checkpoint review that we have for any organizations we have to do. So today on our day one, we have discussed about few things, very, very important things towards the conception of Six Sigma. We started off with our journey with one a customer, identification of our customer, then identification of quality and identification of defect. We also understood in detail what is the magnitude, what is the meaning of defect in two perspectives. We also understood what exactly is a process, because Six Sigma as an initiative talks about process improvement. So we understood what is a process, and we also understood from the Six Sigma project standpoint, what exactly do we mean by a project? We mean by a project. Okay. After understanding a project, there are two methodologies that we learned about a Six Sigma initiative, which is a DMAIC methodology, another a DMADV methodology. In a DMAIC methodology, we ideally understood whenever there is an existing process and we want to improve that existing process, we talk about the MAP methodology. Whenever there is no process that exists in the organization, but we want to design a new process or a new design altogether, then comes our DMADV process, which is also called Design for Six Sigma or DFSS in many cases in an organization. We also understood that any Six Sigma initiative that starts off ideally with a voice of the customer and finishes off with an USL and LSL, that is a target given by the customer, which we derive from the CTQ. We also understood what exactly is the Six Sigma initiative all about. We discussed about the VOC, relation of the CTQ from the VOC, and from the CTQ, how we derive our upper and the lower specification limits. We understood the concept of cost of good quality and cost of poor quality, where we discussed that a cost of poor quality, we should always try to make it zero for an organization, if possible, and cost of good quality, we should try to cost of good quality, we should try to balance or control it as per the organization requirements, as per the organization adaptability and suitability. Because Six Sigma is a very situational process. For each three of you, your situation in your organization, it will be different. Okay. We finally also discussed about two major, very important areas. One is the difference between a green belt and a black belt, where I discussed about three areas of difference. One is difference between a green belt training and a black belt training, difference between a green belt project and a black belt project, and at the same time, the difference of the role that they play. And I told you that the role that they play, especially a black belt, where he plays three different roles: as an executor or leader of a black belt project, as a mentor to other projects, and at the same time, as a bridge between the management and the Six Sigma initiative. So these are the three roles that they play. So the difference between green belt and black belt, I personally, based on my experience, I will count more on the role that they play. Okay, where mostly they act as a mentor in addition to their role as an executor. Okay. We also finally discussed on the toll gate reviews, which is a checkpoint review that we do for each and every organization to start with. Toll gate review. Toll gate review is a checkpoint review that we do after each and every phase of a Six Sigma methodology. After define, we do a define toll gate process. After measure, we do a measure toll gate process. After analyze, we do an analyze toll gate process. After improve, we do an improve toll gate process. And after control, we do an control toll gate process. Some people sometimes say, after control, why we should do a toll gate process? Because there is no phase after that. I say, yes, there is no phase. But in the control toll gate process, you take a decision. Can we now successfully close the Six Sigma project? That is what we do in a Six Sigma project. So that is what about the toll gate process. For execution of a toll gate process, it's a formal review that we should take. It's a formal review, and which should be attended by ideally the sponsor. If you have master black belts, green belts, and any other person whom you feel are instrumental to the success of your project, they should be part of it. So there is no hard and fast rule. You can have Six Sigma as a process is very flexible in this. You can have as many people. Don't make it so crowded, but you can have people who are really needed for the toll gate process for review, and you can prepare your own checklist based on the works that we are supposed to do in each phase. Similarly, you can also prepare simple bullet points, whatever work you need to do, but have this properly documented and preserved. This will be part of your Six Sigma complete documentation set, which we are going to discuss last. With this, I come to a close of day one session. If there are any doubts or questions, you can ask me. Else, I will call it a day. Thank you very much for attending this session for day one. We will again meet up for our further discussions on day two. So thank you very much, everybody. Thank you, Inji. Thank you, Sachin. And thank you, Dariel. We will talk again on coming Friday for day two. Thank you very much. And bye-bye. Thank you.